appreciate our speakers on the call as well. My name is Titi Omole, but before I go ahead, I'm just going to talk us through the ground rules. Please mute your microphone and put on your camera if you're comfortable doing so. We'd like to see your faces. I'm trying my best to show my face so you can see me. Please put your question in the chat box if you've got a question that you'd like the speakers to talk about during the course of the event of this meeting. And also at the end of the towards the end of the event, there will be a question and answer session where you can also speak directly to any of the speakers. So if you would like to do that, I'll ask that you raise your hand and just use the raise hand icon, and someone will unmute you so you can ask your question. Okay, so a bit about us. My name again is Titi Omole, and I'm the founder and one of the directors of Cause for Children Limited. What we do is we are not for profit, and we're in the business of empowering our young people to fulfill their dreams. And we have various initiatives. One of them is this workshop. This is actually the first one we're going to do with parents. Usually our workshops are tailored for young people, but this is a special one for Black History Month. Apart from that, we've got True Little Hero Awards, where we recognize young people for their contribution and achievements, and we've been doing this for about 12 years now. Okay, so while we're here tonight, I think post-COVID, I'm beginning, and I think it's not just me, it's what's common to us. We're beginning to see a lot of our young people on social media. The presence of young people are becoming more noticeable. It's not where we want it to be yet, but we're beginning to see that. And not only young people from privileged background, we've seen young people from even less privileged backgrounds as well getting that visibility. But it seems to be restricted to maybe young people in creative arts. And we want to talk about tonight, we want to talk about how we can help our young people to overcome barriers. It doesn't have to be in creative arts, it could be we have different areas where young people can shine at a very, very young age. So tonight I've got with me three seasoned speakers. I've got with me Juliet Coley. She's a publisher. She's an award-winning publisher, multi-award-winning publisher. She's an educator, and she's going to be talking to us. She's going to be telling us a little bit more about how she'll be using education to support young people in leadership. I've also got Pastor Jumoke Odusolu. That's the family life pastor at Trinity Chapel. She's going to be talking to us about the role of the church in building up our young people in the place of leadership. And finally, I've got my very good friend, Mr. Julian Hall, who's doing an amazing work with young people in the space of entrepreneurship. And he's going to be speaking to us about the role of entrepreneurship and how we can use that to help build our young people up in the place of leadership. So I'm going to start with Juliet first. Juliet, and then I know we've had a chat about this, but what does leadership mean to you? And how can, from the space of education, how can that be used to build our young people up for leadership? I can't hear you. Let's unmute.
That would help, wouldn't it? Greetings to everybody who's joined the call. Thank you, Titi, for inviting me to speak. I've got a PowerPoint that I want to actually go through that will actually help explain the question that you've asked. So I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to get going. So let's do that quickly. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, pushing the limits of young leaders in a school setting. I know that a lot of you on the call may not have the power to make moves and do things within schools, but you have the power to speak to the teachers. You have the power to have conversations with your head of year, classroom teacher, even the head teacher. And I kind of want to explain my experience and how I work to support young leaders when I was working in a school setting. So a little bit about me very quickly. Can someone give me a 5-minute warning, Titi, so I can wrap it up quite quickly and don't go over my time? Okay, so my name's Juliet Coley. I have done TV presenting. I've been a producer for ITV, Channel 4 and Channel 5. I've been doing print and broadcast journalism. I trained with ITN. I've been an educator for 26 years, a secondary school senior deputy head teacher. I'm currently a publisher of Black books written by Black children. I've currently published 25 books and worked with 60 plus young authors. 19 of those were in Accra, Ghana. I'm an author of 6 books. I'm a director of a charity called Perm Inc., which works to permanently include children in education and put out the message there's no need to exclude. So currently I don't want to use the word fighting, but currently I'm working with Hackney Council, which has the highest level exclusions in London, to kind of change that narrative. And I said before, I work with some students in Ghana. I'm actually a patron of a school in Ghana. So I found this quote and I thought it was really quite good, because there's a lot of good leaders out there, but we want great leaders. So good leaders build products, great leaders build cultures, good leaders deliver results, great leaders develop people. Good leaders have vision, but great leaders have value. Good leaders are role models at work, and great leaders are role models in life. And that's what we want to encourage our children to be. Young leaders play a crucial role in building resilience and communities. They can address local issues, mobilize, advocate for social change, and contribute to the overall well-being of their communities. And the skills that we look for in young leaders, or to develop in young leaders, is interpersonal communication, active listening, goal setting, diplomacy, empathy, conflict resolution, motivation, decisiveness, emotional intelligence, curiosity, and adaptability. Now, those skills sometimes are quite different, if you're working or your child's in a school that has kind of like a regimental approach. A lot of the academies, and I'm not afraid to say it out loud, right, have a certain way in which they deal with our children. And it's about lessons first and the child's well-being and the child's character development second. And I was blessed to have worked in a school for 26 years, well, 23 years, actually. I've worked in education longer. And we took the premise that it was the character building that was going to develop that child, to give them those skills to want to achieve academically, but also leave school with life skills like the ones that I've just mentioned earlier. So when I was a school leader, a senior deputy head, there were things that I was in charge of. I was in charge of Ofsted. I was in charge of PR for the school. I was the head of citizenship. I was in charge of behavior, and I had what you call a big team, and I call them the behavior improvement group. I did year 6 open evening. I did race and achievement key stage 4. So it was really important that the school got the results. I was year 8 and year 9 and attendance line manager. And I was also line manager for English, MFL, performance as well. And I also was the head of the English faculty and media. So I was in charge of at least 30 staff, making sure that the children achieved the great GCSEs that they got. Now, within the school, I told you I led Ofsted, and we were 3 times Ofsted outstanding in all areas. And I was kind of, really focused on student leadership. So I developed a school council. They had a budget. They would talk about things that affect the school. And the school council were also in charge of interviewing new staff. So any staff we had in the school that was going to have a senior management level, i.e. they were head of a department or a head of year and above, we had members of the school council interview them. They were part of the interview panel because the students were the stakeholders. Why would you not involve them in doing that? And they would interview them. And actually the candidates were more frightened of the students than they were of me and the head teacher. We have school officers in our school, and that meant that we timetabled every day, 2 different people within year 8 would sit at the front of the school and support the running of the school for 1 day out of their academic year. We had peer mentors that dealt with bullying. They dealt with conflict resolution. We trained those. We had library mentors who were key when it came to reading, helping children to select books. We had diner helpers. So, and that usually came with getting free vouchers for food and stuff, and they would support the staff in the dining area. Prefects who supported the supervision of the whole school in terms of events, in terms of the day-to-day running of the school. And we also recognized students with things like Student of the Week. So we gave them responsibility. You know, there's a saying that the devil finds work for idle hands. So usually when I would teach, I would make sure that the naughty child would be the one giving out the books, with the one that would check the time to make sure that I'm on time, would be actively involved and feel like they had some kind of responsibility within the lesson. And then they would, you know, they wouldn't mess up. They would be focused. They'd be looking for others who are messing up and correct them and make sure they're doing the right thing. 2 of the areas where student leadership was big was when I was in charge of a subject called citizenship. The government decided, I think it was 2003 or whatever, that children weren't politically aware enough. Children weren't involved in their community. Children weren't understanding what charity meant. And they put this subject on the curriculum. And as part of this subject, you had to be active, do something in your community. And I created 2 campaigns. And I'm going to show you some video clips afterwards. How am I doing for time, Titi?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the first campaign was called Value Life. Now, what had happened was my school was in the heart of Tottenham, and there was a BBC documentary came out and talked about how Tottenham was top of the list when it came to gun and knife crime. People were getting shot on the high road, all those kind of things. There was so much negativity about it. So the issue was how to make a stand and show that this is not all the community, and especially not young people. And I sent 9 students who were interested in this away on a residential, and they worked with an organization called the Citizens Foundation, and they came back with ideas of what they wanted to do. They wanted to do a peace walk and a rally. And I wasn't going to sit down and organize it. I had enough to do. So it was about giving them the autonomy to take the lead on it and supervising them. So the students would meet staff and share their school experience. We would organize the whole thing through citizenship lessons. In art, they would design the placards. You know, everybody was involved. We had a day off timetable. And this campaign, Value Life, actually lasted for 10 years. We did a peace walk. We involved all schools in Haringey. Different students led on this initiative. And we actually won a Queen's Award, which is a community or volunteer equivalent to an MBE for this work that we did. So I'm just going to show you a little something about how this worked.
This is Grace. She is 13 years old and a Year 9 student. Grace believes school children live in an ever-increasing violent culture.
I was in the Year 7 class, and the teacher asked, so how many of you have played Vice City or Manhunt or something? And the majority of the class put up their hand. When the game's like an 18, then it's kind of causing them to want to go out and do it, you know, to experience it, because they've seen it as a glamorized thing. As you know, the Value Life campaign has been running for 3 years now, and I'm here to tell you more about this year's campaign.
Pupils of Gladesmore feel passionate about their community's well-being, and it was 9 Gladesmore students that initially started the Value Life campaign 3 years ago. For the past 2 years, the citizenship team at Gladesmore have organised a peace rally and taken to the streets of Tottenham to voice their disgust at what they see as a plague on today's communities. This year, Grace and other members of the school council have decided it's time for their generation to make a stand against knife and gun crime. They'll be using their citizenship studies to help plan and organise this year's march.
Okay.
This is
Then,
Grace. She is 13 years old and
sorry about that. Let's stop that.
Grace believes
Let's move it on.
Thank you.
It won't be a second. Oh, I can't find the icon that moves it on. Here we go. Then we got the students to be involved in the real stuff. The people who had lost kids to gun and knife crime. And then they would help us, and I'd work with the children to write the lessons that the whole school would be able to have empathy and understand what was going on.
people that's been murdered in this cemetery, either with a
This is a mother who had lost 2 children to gun crimes.
terrible. It's unbelievable.
And you said about 7-year-olds, you know, like that.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't say so. They didn't just take Damien, they shot me. And I didn't know who the person who shot Damien. His brothers didn't know them. His sisters didn't know them, but they shoot a whole family. They shoot his great grandmother. People that's been murdered.
So by understanding that, then the children, you would give them some empathy, you'd give them some understanding of how it works. And then the actual event was an timetable school day. Where we had all the students march from the school right to Wood Green, right, to make a stand.
Really proud of the students, very, very proud in fact. And just seeing them, I mean, obviously looking a long distance, you've got peaks and you've got troughs, and you know, obviously when they first started off, it was, and as it's slowly going down, the heat and they're getting tired, it goes down and it goes up again. And when it got to Wood Green High Road and all the people in the high road cheering them along and supporting them along and really encouraging them, then they went right back up again.
If you're not there yet, the road to success, it's a lot of sacrifices and hard dedication. Got to be prepared for the trials and tribulations.
After a long 2-hour march.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I don't think I'm going to show the next one. I don't think we've got time because we started late.
Yeah, because you've got, yeah.
We started late. So I'm not going to show the next one, but I'm just going to wrap it up. Okay.
Thank you.
See if I can move on. Okay, so I'm not going to say the next one. I'll move on from there. It was a project that we did after the London riots, and the children took control and organised a campaign, to put the positiveness back into Tottenham. And a lot of those students that were involved in those things have gone on to get great grades at university. Some have gone on to non-London universities, Cambridge, Oxford, you know, because they developed the skills that they needed in order to take charge. I just had some suggestions here. I'm not going to go over all of them, of what you can do outside school in order to develop leadership in your children. And these are some of the things that they do in Hackney. A lot of the boroughs do it as well. And then also just to say that leaders inspire leaders. And before I retired from education, I put up an alumni wall of students that had done great things. And a lot of these students were all involved in the citizenship projects. And they range from pop stars who were #2 in the charts with Chris Brown, a guy called Chipmunk who's our head boy, another guy called Nana Rogues who wrote or writes and produces for Drake. This girl, Franciane Brooks there, she was part of the Value Life campaign, and she's now a competition law expert. We've got Ricky, who was part of that campaign. He's a cardiovascular surgeon at the Royal Brompton Hospital. Emmanuel Frimpong, who's an Arsenal footballer. And you don't have to be, you know, super academic, you know, to be a leader. This little boy called Elijah, you know, he used to love chicken. He recognized that when he left school, he was going to make a name for himself by having a YouTube channel, by grading chicken, and ended up on Channel 4 with his own show called Pen Life. So, yeah, so that's a bit about.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you very, very much. I think from that, I've gathered that engagement is very, very important. We need to engage our children in businesses that involve their community. I mean, you've talked about the walk, you talked about the march, the peace walk. them being involved even in the selections and interview of staff
But to
members.
be
So
involved in community,
I think that is remarkable.
but to be involved in community, Titi, sorry, you have to understand how the world works. So,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of lots of children say they're not interested in the news. Oh, it's boring. Not interested in politics. It's boring. But it affects everybody. And it's important that children understand what is going on in the world as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Juliet. Now I'm just going to move on to Pastor Jumoke. Can I just ask that if you've got questions, please put it in the chat. If you like, if you have questions that you like the speaker to address, we'll do that towards the end. So please put it in the chat. I'm moving on to Pastor Jumoke Odusolu. Pastor Jumoke Odusolu is the family pastor, family life pastor at the Trinity Chapel. She's an educator herself. She's quite experienced in education. I think she's done for over 20 years. And she also got some initiatives around mentoring young people, helping them to become what they want to be in life. We cannot erase the fact that the church has a big role to play in the Black community. The church has helped some people, I mean, people like myself, it has helped shape my values and beliefs. I want to find out what the church needs to work on more, or what the church is doing in helping our young people to develop that leadership character, to make them that solid individual as they go into the market, how they can become that solid individual amongst their peers. Pastor Jumoke, over to you.
Thank you so very much, Titi, for inviting me. Thank you, everyone, for joining this call. And thank you, Juliet, for that wonderful presentation. I do not take this for granted. It is a great opportunity to add my voice in this Black History Month to what has been tagged changing the narrative, and most especially here to push the limits of young leadership. So, like I've been introduced, I'm the family life pastor of Trinity Chapel. And Trinity Chapel is a church. But I want to start by saying the church is the people, not the building. So, as a church, we are a community, and in our midst, we have these young people. We have them from babies, and they grow in our midst, and we see them thrive. Now, what does the church do? I'm timing myself so that I don't overrun. What the church does is that we welcome our young people into the world. We believe that they are a gift from God and they have a purpose. So we start to work on them realizing their purpose, their identity in Christ, what it is that God had created them for. And I would like to use a Bible passage. I might not be able to read it because of time, but I would like to read very quickly what the world is looking for, and therefore honor what the church does in order to match what the world is looking for, in order for our young people to attain their purpose. It is from Daniel chapter 1, and I'm reading just verse 1 to 2. Okay, I think I will skip that. I will read verse 1 and then 3. So verse 1 says, in the 3rd year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And verse 3 says, then the king instructed the master of the eunuch to bring some of the children of Israel and some of the king's descendants and some of the nobles, young men in whom there was no blemish, but good-looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge and quick to understand, who had the ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. Why did I read that? It is that when this king went into Israel, he wanted some talented, good-looking people that are wise, young men, meaning that the world is there for our young people to explore, to go and be all that God has created them for. How do we do that? The first thing is that we can realize from this story that Daniel was brought up very well. He was one of the boys that was picked by the king's representative to be taken to Babylon. The parents must have invested in him, right? The church or the priest at the time had taken the time to teach the Torah to these young people. They knew who they were, they knew their God, they knew the values, and the same happens in the church. So we go on from the very early stage to develop a curriculum that will tell the children who they are. Identity is one major thing that is needed for our children, young people, to excel. They must know who they are. So they know who they are in Christ, they know who they are in their family, they know who they are in their community. Alongside, we now teach them the values and the practices of Christianity. You are not just the daughter, the son of the Most High, but you are one that has been created in the image and likeness of God. Christ has come into this world to show the love, the kindness, the compassion, the way we are to live, and we start them off. So we have the curriculum that is age related to our children. We start from age 1 to 3, we have 4 to 6, we have 7 to 9, and we have 9 to 12. And thereon, they go into the teenage group where they are encouraged to put all those things that they have learned from very early on into practice, not just in our community, but like Juliet said, in school. So we encourage them that whatever is presented to you, whatever you are called upon to do, don't shy away from it, because teachers, your parents, the people in your church community, they see these things and they know that these potentials are there. So as soon as they tell you, come on, come, do it shy, do it afraid, but you must do it. That is one way we do it. The other way is the way as modeled in the story of Esther. Esther was an orphan, right? But was raised by a cousin. So there is the role modeling in the church community. They are the young ones, the younger ones being modeled by people that are probably 5 to 6 years older than them, holding their hands, telling their own story, showing them the challenges they face in the world. And that way they are able to deal with whatever is presented to them within their community, whether it is school, community, neighborhood, or even at home. You know, they hear stories of how there's sibling rivalry, how those older ones have dealt with it, and they embrace that. You know, all of these things are building blocks for them to become great leaders. Our young people also, we teach them the love of Christ. The love of Christ means that you do not judge others. You do not go into your world or into the marketplace, whatever it is. You do not go there to condemn. You do not go there to bully. You do not go there to make other people feel less than themselves. Now, that is also modeled from the very oldest to the youngest. Right? And when we pick traits that might suggest otherwise, there's the hand-holding, there is the mentoring that allows them to understand why those things are not right for purpose. They are not fit for who God has called them to be. That is the nurturing aspect of the church community. We see their gifts. Aside from those shortcomings, we also look at their giftings. You know, as a young person, you see some young people that are very, very, very inquisitive. They ask a lot of questions. You see some of them that are very bold. They want to take on and do stuff. We encourage them by actually creating opportunities for them to do that, whether it is in drama, reading the word of God, role playing it, you know, or trying to make them express through artistic ways on how they will teach those things in the world, how they will use those things within their community. So that is quite key, because that is nurturing their gift and talents from very early on. The example I have here was the one of Jesus. When Jesus was a young boy, he went into the temple, and they said the people around him observe how he was answering questions. The inquisitive mind that he had, asking and answering questions. And they thought, wow, is this not the son of Joseph? But those things were inherent, were already in Christ, and they started watching. So that is the same thing that the church must do. You must watch the children that God has put in your care. You cannot disdain it. And when there is trouble also, you must know how to discipline them. Discipline meaning that you can take them to a corner and have a one-to-one with them. Tell them that, okay, now because this has been done, there are consequences for your choices. That is the discipline, is that they must know that there are choices and there are consequences. The consequences might be that, oh, when they're going on a retreat, because of what you have done, we cannot take you on that retreat for that year. We have to be sure that you are able to behave well and you are an ambassador for Christ wherever you go to. As the school encourages that, the church also encourages that. It encourages that children must know that they are the hands and the feet of Christ at whatever age and at whatever level. Now, the last one is testing and collaboration. I believe that when you have taught children, when you have taught children, sorry, I was in education, so sometimes I call them students or pupils. When you have taught children what the fundamental, the foundation, you have instilled in them the discipline that is needed to excel, you must try it. You must give them the ability to go out and test those things. So Jesus Christ, after teaching his disciples, he sent them out. He said, go and go into villages, teach the word and heal the sick. The same thing must happen with children. So you must allow them to go out, to go on, I just said, retreat, school camps, school trips, if they're in university and they're asking for gap year, trust them to be able to do that. If they want to travel solo to explore or do stuff, we must encourage them to do it, because that is when they build innate strength, innate confidence, for them to know that I can do this, I can manage my time, I can manage the resources that has been put in my hand, and therefore they grow in that courage and confidence that they are able to take on the world. Daniel in Babylon, the level of wisdom was identified, was so amazing that he served 7 kings. And these children, after we have nurtured them in the church community, we send them out into the marketplace to be leaders, whether it is in schools, in their offices, in politics, right? Even in the church, they come back to teach the younger ones. They come back to speak to us even as older people, because wisdom is not limited to age. And finally, we celebrate them. We celebrate their small and big wins. We encourage them by showcasing all the things that they're doing in the world. There are times that we call out names and we give them gifts in their various classes. They're asked to come and talk about the things that they have done in the world, so that they can encourage others to walk the path that they have walked. And finally, the church supports the weak ones. When mistakes have been made, when there had been things that shouldn't have been done, we don't abandon or condemn the young people. We tell them that you learn from your mistake. The first time you do it is a mistake. The second time, it must not happen. If it happens, that means you have not learned the lesson. And you know what? We pray and keep praying and keep praying that the Lord that has created them for their purpose must find a way to surround them with people that will hold them, that will encourage and build them up so that they can enter into purpose. The church is has a significant role to play in the development of children's leadership skills. So I want to give quickly 2 examples, and I'm going to use my children as an example. You know, after primary school, both my children decided to go into a boarding school. You know, the first one, the girl, while she was there, it was discovered that she had an athletic talent, you know, and they pushed, and she would say, "Oh, mom, it's too cold. The summer training, the winter training is too much for me." I'll say, "You know what, Damola, you can do it. You know, you can do it. Remember who you are." It says you can do all things through Christ. So the word of God that has been taught is now used to encourage them to excel in whatever they're doing. My son, very quickly, I know my alarm just went up. My son, when he started year 7, the first person that met him after 3 weeks told him that you are going to be the head boy of this school. Now, that is year 7 to year 11. Believe it or not, that was what it became. He came back and said, "Mom, you know, my mentor said this to me." I said, "Tofumi, that is who you are. You are the leader. They must have seen something. Remember, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do in church, this is the way you speak with young people." So you are expressing those things out there, and they're seeing it. So the church is not a building. It is a group of people that are meant to nurture, to encourage, to pray young people into that purpose which God has created them for. And the word of God tells us that they are the head, they are not the tail. And that is what we do day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, decade by decade. And at the end of it, all the glory goes back to our God. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Pastor Jumoke. Honestly, I think I caught. Thank you very much. Excellent insight. Yes, I'm a fan of celebration, and I think that's why maybe I've been doing this True Little Hero Awards. I just believe in recognition, acknowledging efforts, big or small. I believe when you nurture that, it builds their confidence, and they want to move forward and do better. So definitely celebration. And I like the idea that we mentor them so that they also can become mentors to others. I think the society needs well-groomed, well-balanced adults that are loving. They love others. They are not judgmental of others. They can collaborate, because in the marketplace, you have to collaborate. There's a lot of collaboration going on. And also being disciplined as well. So thank you so much, Pastor Jumoke, for that. Please, people on the call, if you've got questions, please put them in the chat. We're going to ask our panels later on so that they can address your questions. And last but not the least is my friend. I know he's my friend, Mr. Julian Hall. Honestly, Mr. Julian Hall's ministry is one remarkable one I admire so much. Building young people up in the place of entrepreneurship. This guy is passionate about that, and I see it. And I just want to open up the floor to Julian to just tell us, in this space of entrepreneurship, how that can be used to build up our young people. I've seen a lot of young people that have passed through your academy, that's Ultra Education. I've even read your daughter's poem lately. So you're doing a remarkable work, and I believe you've got a lot to share with us tonight. So over to you, Julian.
First of all, thank you, Titi, and thank you for the amazing work that you do at Cause for Children and the True Little Hero Awards. I know it's been life-changing for many of the young people who have received the awards and who have been given a platform to just shine at your ceremony. So please, I know it's hard work, but the community is grateful for the work that you have done. And I just want to acknowledge the two speakers before me, Juliet and Pastor Jumoke. If we have more powerful Black women like you three in our communities, then we have hope for the future. So for those of you who aren't familiar with myself, I'm Julian Hall. I am the founder and CEO of a 9-year-old social enterprise called Ultra Education. And for that period of time, we have existed to teach entrepreneurship to kids from 7 years old. We've actually got a 5 and a 6-year-old on one of our programs at the moment. So it just goes to show that wisdom in the form of entrepreneurship is truly coming from the mouths of babes as the years roll on. But one of the things that we have adopted, one of the philosophies which we adopted a number of years back when we started, and when we thought about how do we more effectively support young people and produce outcomes for them which would enrich their todays and their tomorrows, we lent on the principle and the proverb which we are all familiar with, that it takes a village to raise a child. So when we looked at the village, which was educating young people, we could see that there were limitations, right? So earlier on this week, I was invited to a roundtable at London Stock Exchange, and it was with the heads of a number of different organizations, government departments around London. And I was one seat away from the special advisor for education to the Prime Minister. So this was a room full of, you know, the great and the good, looking at what change should be available for young people. And they started with, you know, the curriculum, because that's what millions of young people across the country are having to, are being taught each day. And I think it's fair to say that most people in education, and I delivered an assembly just last week, and the head teacher there told me that as far as he's concerned, the national curriculum should just be torn up, thrown away, and rebuilt. Now, as easy as that might sound, it's obviously a very difficult problem to solve, which is why it hasn't been solved yet. The point is, though, that one of the limiting factors to the development of young people is the national curriculum, right? It isn't fit for purpose. It was designed for factory workers. So we know that actually the reason why there is a summer holidays in the education system is because that's when you're supposed to reap the crops. That's the time when children and everybody was needed. And the reason why we have a 9 to 5 is because that was determined by Henry Ford of Ford Motors as the most time you could get out of a factory worker. So historically, things have moved on. We don't have factories like that anymore, and we are not harvesting on farmland anymore. But we still have an education system and an enterprise system that is hung upon those two ideas. So we know that education is a barrier for young people today. It doesn't fit within how they're experiencing the world today, and it's not going to represent how they're experiencing the world in the future. The next thing is, the next part of the village, which educates young people, is the community, right? So young people are in the community, they're learning from the environments that they're in. One of the things I learned at this round table was that in the last decade, there has been £1 billion pulled out of youth services. That's billion with a B. So when young people are saying, oh, there's nothing for me to do, evenings, weekends, half terms, holidays, it's because of that. It's because of that reason. It's because the budget given to the funding given to youth services across the country has been pulled by a massive amount, right? And somebody's gone and run the numbers, and it's £1 billion deficit for young people. So in the community, the available resources that are that should be there for young people simply aren't. Then the last place that young people, the last part of the village where young people learn is the home. So we have schools, we have the community, and we have the home. That makes up the village, right? There's actually a fourth member of the village, which is social media, but we'll talk about that another time, otherwise we'll be here all night. Now, in the home, the issue is, and we all know, if we're keeping it real, that unless you are of a certain class, or you have a certain income, and you don't have all the barriers that many of us face, many of us are working around the clock, so we don't necessarily have all the time that we want to support our children. Many of us are dealing with housing issues, health issues. We're dealing with issues, the gaps that are supposed to be provided by statutory services. Some of us are fighting with the councils and fighting with the schools that our children go to, right? So we don't have the bandwidth necessarily to be able to provide our own children with the support that they need. So those are all the problems, right? How can we, and how have we found solutions that can address this? Now, early on in the year, well, actually just July gone, I was invited to Richard Branson's private island, Necker Island, to an event called Disrupting for Good. And he wanted me to come and talk about Ultra and all the work we do with our young people. Now, the thing that I took away from that trip was that Richard Branson, along with many other billionaires, they have figured out that there is no business, there is no organization that it can exist today without purpose. It is no longer just about making money and making profit. You have to have impact. You have to have purpose. Otherwise, there is no organization, there is no business, right? Now, we know that loads of businesses around the country still don't operate in that fashion, but that is where business is going. Every business will have to have some kind of purpose behind it, not just for the sake of looking good or feeling good, but because people don't want to work for organizations that don't have purpose, that aren't mission driven, that don't give back. Nobody wants to work with organizations like that, because money isn't a big enough driver for human beings to get up in the morning, otherwise we'd never call in sick, right? So the reason I say that is because since we've been teaching entrepreneurship, and this is a paradigm which even I didn't expect, young people naturally include purpose and impact into their businesses. Almost all of the young entrepreneurs that we've worked with, whether they're writing a book, whether they're producing a fashion label, whether they're creating some tech, they all want to solve some kind of problem that they feel within their communities. And that is like mind-blowing. And it sounds like an obvious thing to do, but the previous generation of entrepreneurs were not thinking like that, right? So if we are using entrepreneurship to solve social problems, then the battle is halfway won. And that is what young people are starting to do now. So a lot of these societal problems that we face, young people are already addressing them in small form, but we know as they get older, they'll have the courage and the knowledge to be able to deal with bigger issues. And lastly, the last part of the village, the parents. The parents have, and for those of you who know about our work, the parents are standing right next to, just one step behind the children. They are in full support of these young entrepreneurs because they can see that enterprise and entrepreneurial skills, financial literacy, all that kind of stuff is helping to plug the gaps which are found in the curriculum, which are found in schools. So what we found that's done is it's helped to bind families together. And when you bind families together in great numbers, it helps to bind the communities together. So what we found in doing our work is that the gaps that are found in education, entrepreneurship can fill. The gaps that are found in the community, in terms of responding to challenges that are found locally, young people are responding to them. And the challenges that are found in the home are now being supported because these children are helping to bind families closer together, and other families who have other young entrepreneurs or other young people who are doing amazing things are now starting to find common ground. So we can share time, we can share experiences, we can share resources. And all of this, we've started to find in small measure, in large measure, but we've seen the evidence of these things happening. So the reason why it's important for us to come together in forums like this is so that we can share our knowledge, share our experiences, because we are the ones that we've been waiting for. There is no one that's going to come and just hand us the answer, but the answers are here among us. The answers are with the great talk that Pastor Jumoke and all of the great work that Juliet has been doing. And with Juliet specifically, at her last event, the Children's Black Business, the Children's Black Book Fair, when I saw her son Romeo and I had a chat with him, it dawned on me at that moment that if anybody is going to be the first Black Prime Minister of the UK, it could be Juliet's son. And he's a great example of somebody who has not just been an entrepreneur, but he's been an author, and he's, very cognizant about himself growing into manhood. He's entered into political circles. He's traveled and contributed to causes with his mother in Ghana. He's a very well-rounded young man. And he's a great example of other young people, many of whom have been to the True Little Hero Awards, and I'm sure many of us have seen, but I use him as an example of what's possible today. And if we can create more young people like Romeo, like the True Little Heroes that are at TT's events, then for me, we have the solution in front of us. We just have to support them, nurture them, and just give them everything that they need, because if we continue to do that, then for me, the next generation will help us to solve a lot of the problems that we have and a lot of the problems that young people face today.
Oh, thank you so much, Julian. And I quite agree with you on Romeo. I know Juliet she did like a smiley face, but he is indeed a very balanced young man. I think I've known him since, I don't know, was he age 7 or 8? And I've seen him grown into a remarkable young man. So very well done, Juliet. We're looking out and we're rooting for him as well. So, questions in the chat. If there's anybody on the call that would like to ask a question, if you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand up. Okay, if you have a question for our speakers, please put your question in the chat. Okay. Whilst we're waiting for questions, I've got a question for you, Mr. Julian Hall. You mentioned something about young people, the young entrepreneurs having purpose and impact, that they already understand that. What do you think could be responsible for that? For them having, you said,
it's because
they already have that.
Yeah, the reason why young people by default include purpose into business is because they are not simply motivated by money. It takes a long time for a human being to think money is everything and is the be all and end all. If you look at two children playing, if you just look at the innocence of children, they can't fathom the idea that money is the solution to all problems, right? That's not how they operate. It takes society to program that into you, that if you have money, then you'll be happy and your problems in life will be solved. And we know as grown-ups that that isn't the case. But that is actually still what is taught. That is still the roadmap that society presents for young people. However, because at Ultra, we don't approach it in that way. The first question we ask young people is, what are you passionate about? What do you love doing? And that's when they start to express their passions. And even we discovered a lot of the things that young people are passionate about are problems that they want to solve, because it means that they have agency, and sometimes it may even just be an ambition to change something, an ambition to contribute, an ambition to do something which can better their own immediate environment. And all we've done is given them a vehicle to do that. So I just think that as human beings, we want to help each other. And society changes that over time. We just have that conversation with children before society has gotten into their heads that money is the solution to all of their problems.
Thank you, Julian. I've got a question here, and I would like to put this I think I'll put this forward for Pastor Jumoke, because you talked about having building adults that are disciplined. Now, this question is, what is the biggest challenge you face with supporting young people to achieve their goals? If we're going to build a young person, an adult that is disciplined, there's goal setting. So what are the challenges that you faced?
Thank you. I raised two young individuals, and I think that taught me a lot about being consistent with what you ask of the young people. You have to let them understand the why. So the first thing is that if they don't know why they have to do what they have to do, it becomes a concern for them. As soon as they know the why, I think that is what Julian is saying. When they have purpose, they know the reason why they have to do what they're doing, then it's easy for them. Now, for some of them, peer pressure or peer influence, let me say, peer influence is one of the main problem. They sometimes look at other people, and they feel that, oh, if that person is doing that thing, why do I have to do this? Why are you in church asking me to be a person that will wake up in the morning, talk to my maker, have the things, you want, your to-do list for that day, make sure you accomplish it. And that is what. And now, what we say to them is habit. Habit builds something in you. It tells you that you are able to do whatever you do, and it becomes really easy. So that is another reason why discipline might be challenging for young people. And then finally, it is that sometimes the people around them are not disciplined, especially the older ones, and you cannot be calling for what you are not modeling. So that can be a challenge sometimes, for a young person. But I believe that this generation, I say to people, I say, God knows what He wants to do with the world. And the generation we are seeing, in fact, what they know and what they're able to do, as you can see from the talk today, it was not what I was able to do at their age. So I have high hopes for them, even though the world feels that it is a problematic, very lazy, laid back generation. I believe that God has a plan and is working with them.
Thank you very much. And my last question is for Juliet. I know you've done a lot of project work with young people. How do you get young people to work together? Because it seems you've been involved in a lot of project work where they are kind of the core. How did you get them, to even see this project to completion or to success? How did you get them to? Because there's a lot of collaborative work going on there. How did you manage to get them together and stay focused and achieve the aim of the project?
I think two things. I mean, I was fortunate with the projects that I'd done in school, it's in school. So children feel that if it's in school, they have to do it, so they don't feel they have any choice when they actually do. But it's easier when it's in that framework. But also, if you put the children in charge, if you put their ideas to the forefront, if you support what they want to do and what they believe, and guide them and mold them and shape them and put them in the right direction, then you will get the results. So part of some of the campaigns that we've done that have been very successful is because the children are pushing it, are driving it. and they have that grit. So the other project the major project that I did that I didn't have a chance to show was a project after the London riots, which started in Tottenham. And a lot of the children came back to school after that summer saying that they, wanted something done about, the news having negative images about Tottenham. And they wanted to do a song for Tottenham. And then, I sat with the children. What do you want to do? How do you want to do this? Obviously, I've got PR experience. I've got journalism experience, so I can help shape and I can help guide. But that project, they made this record that ended up at number 33 in the iTunes charts. Boris Johnson came to the school because they went down to City Hall. We did this campaign where everybody knows somebody famous, and they had to come back to school with a picture of a famous person holding the Everybody Dreams sign so we could put it on social media. What did the children do? They went down to the BAFTAs and they gave the sign to all the celebrities in the line, took the photographs, and that was our first 50 photographs. And that's how the council came on board. So children are geniuses. Children are great. Children are enthusiastic if you give them that opportunity, if you give them that chance. And they will collaborate if the ideas are coming from them, if the work is coming from them, and if they believe in the project.
Thank you so, so much. Honestly, I've had a very, very insightful time. I've learned a lot. Some things I'm taking away, and I hope everyone on the call also they've learned one or two things. Before we round up, I just want to apologize again for starting late. Technology tried to do its own thing, but we just had to forward forward, tech or not, and it happened. And so I just want to thank you all for hanging in there and making this happen. Parting notes before we go from you. One word from you, Julian.
Oh gosh, make me laugh, please. I've got to think. All children have that leadership inside of them. It's how you encourage it to come out, and it's how you work with them to shape it.
Thank you. Pastor Jumoke?
Nurture the gift within them, please. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Julian Hall?
And this is a word that I've been using for myself, and that is intentional. We've got to be very deliberate about the things that we want to do. So if we want to improve outcomes for young people, support them and do all the amazing things we all want to do, let's be very intentional about it.
Oh, thank you very, very much. I'm just going to say we've got a short survey for you to please fill for us. It's just feedback. I'm going to ask, I think they're going to drop it in the chat so that you can just click on it. Please, please, please give us your sincere feedback about this event. And I think I've got a slide also of our speakers, their contact details. If you want to please present that. Don't know whether people want to take their website or phone number and call you up. Okay, it's coming up now. Yeah, that's it. And I wouldn't let it won't be fair for me not to talk about the upcoming Trinity Hero Awards because I'm a fan of celebrating efforts. Any little one, I just go out for you so that you feel confident because you're doing something. It's still better than being laid back doing nothing or being engaged with the wrong thing. So please join me in celebrating this positive efforts that our young people are doing. We have events coming up next month. We're on Eventbrite, or if you go to our Instagram page or Facebook page, you can join, you can register and come and cheer our 2024 awardees on. I've also got oh good, okay, all right. I think okay. So for you to get in touch with Juliet, I think she's on Instagram. I thought I've got the slide with her details on. I don't we're not going to worry too much about that. Please look her up on Instagram, Facebook. She's there. Mr. Julian Hall is there. LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn. You're going to find Juliet there. You're going to find Julian Hall there, or Ultra Education. That's the website. And Pastor Jumoke, our church is trinitychapel.org.uk. Thank you so much for joining, and have a lovely weekend. We're recording this session. We're going to upload it onto our channel on YouTube, which is Cause for Children Limited, and share the link, and you can just go there to watch this event again. Thank you so much, and God bless. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Cause for Children. Thank you, Julian. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Juliet. Thank you. And thanks everyone for coming.